2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. I've been away for a little bit doing the Hall of Fame thing. This guy has been my kemosabe here for a number of years, Cole Roofing. Bill Cole joins us now to not just talk some Baltimore positive, not just talk some, hey, it's summer, and here comes Lamar, and here comes fake football, and all that entails, but since the last time you and I got together, and, most folks know you're a little bit of a consigliere to me and the Dr. Melfi on the couch here every week doing the radio thing, but for all that we've been through here with riots and sports franchises and city and violence and education, all the things that go on, since the last time we got together, the president has now made it so that when friends of mine opine about Baltimore on Facebook, the first thing I hear about are rats and infestation. It's just a wonderful, wonderful brand that the president of the United States has carved out for our city that folks like you and me are going to change over the next decade, right?
Yeah, it's good to be back with you. Some of us were, and I got to, bring attention to the fact that my roofer men were on top of roofs through July when it was, 95 and really hot, and you were vacationing or whatever it is.
Yeah. These were, I took a few long weekends. I mean, I didn't even vacation.
You were working. I know. That's what we do. Even
you saw me with my laptop
working,
out on 12th Street in Ocean City. You saw that?
Right.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I mean, it's a continuation of what we've been living in for a long time, and that's the lack of leadership who recognizes that if you aren't telling the story about your brand, then someone else will tell it for you. Absolutely. And when there's a huge void, which existed, and the guy with, I guess some would say, the largest mouthpiece, in the world decides to pick on you for whatever reason. Like, I still don't know that I fully believe or understand why this was the center of.
Well, this is why you don't sanction leadership like this in America. This goes back to what happened when people went into the ballot box and said, "Don't like her. He's famous on TV. How bad could he be?" Boom, and we find out. I mean, this is a national crisis. We've got crazy people going to the border to Walmart with machine guns and killing people randomly in the name of him. So so like that happened last weekend too. Thankfully, it didn't happen in Baltimore, but it happened in El Paso. It happened in Toledo or Dayton or Cincinnati or wherever his imagination leads us. But the Baltimore part of this. Bill, I don't know that I've ever been so incensed, so deeply enraged internally and having to put a face on it, but I live here. And I'm angry, and, I've let it stew a little bit. Don Moeller caught a little bit of that, as did Johnny O last week, and Paul Taberzi and a couple people I've been with. I went up to New York over the weekend with some Baltimore guys, and I think this is a real rallying point. I mean, as much as he's a divisive human being, and this is a disastrous part of American history, good things will bloom from this cancer, I promise you. And one of them is I've started to feel, and maybe it's football season, and I'll bring the sports part in, but I've started to feel the little beat on the chest, "We are Baltimore," throughout the community. Even the people who are pissed about the city want to go in and pick up a shovel, and 300 conservatives got together to get a headline. 300 conservatives? How about like the people that live here and pay? I've been picking up trash around the city for 17 years now. You know what I mean? I don't need a friggin' headline or to put a video out on Facebook to say how many times I've gone to a church in West Baltimore to give out food on Thanksgiving, because I've done that. But, I'll let you go because I'm losing my mind this week, and you're the first recipient of it because I really haven't talked about it publicly. So I do apologize on behalf of everyone at Cole Roofing. I still love you, Bill.
The frustrating part for me is so we know human behavior, like after 9/11. Patriotism soared in our country.
Sure.
Right. So we know factually that there's a rallying cry that brings us all together. My frustration is around the way the media just sort of spins these up, like that's kind of like a non-event. You know, Trump and Elijah Cummings arguing on Twitter is really a non-event. Like that isn't really newsworthy. Other
There's
than
not
if
one
you
part
like
of that, though, that helps my city unless we become New Orleans, right? And the country takes up a cause to say, in the same way the country took up a cause to fix Detroit, right? The country took up a cause to bail the banks out, right? The country took up a cause to bail out, auto dealership, and will again bail out New Orleans, right? So at some point, maybe we get kicked around so much that somebody wants to help it instead of burn it, right? And maybe we've reached that tipping point where the people who have said, I'm not going back to Baltimore anymore because it sucks, are going to be the people who say, hey, I'm going to help, though. I'm going to get in line with Ness and Bill and Don Moeller and some of those Baltimore positive folks and try to help Baltimore instead of being the one kicking it around on the internet in the comments section where you need to leave a rat behind your trail to let me know that there might be rats in Baltimore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it smells of like middle school sort
Ugh.
of like, he said this and she said that and all that. I mean,
The
that's
a-holes
the
I went to gym
sensationalism.
class with in Holabird are the ones running the country now. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, the
Insane.
sensationalism around a war of words, and that doesn't translate to action. What frustrates me is we keep like bringing these things to a point, and no one's talking. Again, it's a clickbait media. No one's talking about the good things that have gone on, or the fact that good things have been happening for a long time. And these things, if you have, 200 years of corruption, or, you went through the reverse of the industrialization of, and of the city, and we're not doing those things here anymore. And just like Pittsburgh and the Rust Belt and everywhere, I mean, those are real macroeconomic kind of problems.
And they need smart people and smart solutions and not talking about how coal's going to come and save us. You know what I mean? Like, the conversation line that I hear with the people in the red hats, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's not about politics or hatred or white nationalism. The foundation of those principles don't make any sense. Telling China, F you, we're the United States, makes China buy stuff from Russia and Brazil. That's not helping farmers. There's no line of this rhetoric, including the Russian stuff with Trump and impeaching him, which he should be impeached because he broke the law. He's a criminal. He's a traitor. I'll go down all those lines. None of that's helping the country if we don't start getting smart about climate change, if we don't start getting smart about solar, about green, about efficiency, about allowing smart people to make smart decisions. And I see that as the biggest problem in Baltimore because, Bill, I know, there are a lot of smart people. You surround yourself with them every day, right? Your accelerant meetings. I've been out with you around the community. I know community leaders. We have them on Baltimore Positive. Not just politicians, people making a difference, people doing all sorts of things along all sorts of social spheres, black, white, religious, non-religious, good work, community work with women, work with children, work with underprivileged folks, work with handicapped folks and people who have challenges in life. And, day after day, we see people doing that in Baltimore. And we get rats, and we get fights on Twitter, and we get videos of the most awful things that I can't watch or witness that happen to citizens in the street here that outrage us and should outrage us. But at some point, the message from Baltimore Positive, Bill, and I know this is get a shovel, man. Let's go. You know what I mean?
And that's my point.
Get a shovel.
Like that's been going on for, as long as I can remember being an adult. I mean, when I was 17 years old, like, we didn't go to Fed Hill, we didn't go to Canton. Fells Point was the only place that, welcomed people down there at 17. Obviously I was interested in
I had a beverage at Dionysos right there at the market back in that.
Right.
They let us in, they broke the plates, we drank the beer, it was $2,
right.
We were happy to be there.
But look at the transformation. I mean, I was never really a Fed Hill person, so I don't know when that neighborhood got ignited.
I do. I went to Turner's on the corner where they had the holograms. I spoke to my pal Mark Miller from Blondell and Essex about that last week, and memories of parking down there and the pit beef on the street and the Smithereens and Tommy Conwell playing inside the 8x10 when Mother's was just like not Mother's. It was like some morning diner. I don't know what the hell it was called at the time. So, yeah, man, I mean.
Right. So we've been in the process of activating these communities for a long time, and that has led to, this dichotomy when the Wall Street Journal puts out an article that says Baltimore is one of the best places that millennials want to go.
Well, look at Hamden. Look at Remington. Look at what Canton became, right? I mean, look at what it still is. And, I mean, it has a target now, I mean, like.
Right. These things take time. And my issue is it comes down to the void of leadership, right? If no one is talking about the good stuff that's going on, like to your point, I mean, more recently, the Remington and the Hammond, I mean, all that is totally, like, if you haven't driven down there and you don't remember Old Hampton or any of that stuff, like, you got to go because it's got a totally different
Park your car
vibe,
and walk around a little
vibe.
Bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Cole's my guest. Let me just reset here. Bill Cole, Cole Roofing, and, of course, Gordian Energy. Been with us forever. It's been a little while since we got together. You are, in the inner circle of the people who've inspired Baltimore positive through all of this. And, we've popped this thing up over the last 2 years, you and I, with the Community and Charity Series and what you've done here and trying to raise the conversation and saying, don't stick to sports. Let's talk about the community. But it is an amazing intersection this summer, right, of all the things that have gone on in the country and how somehow Baltimore has become the place getting kicked around by Americans as the worst of America. And I resent the F out of that, Bill. I really, really do. And that has empowered me to pick up a sword and a shovel, quite frankly, because
But that isn't what people think. Right? Like, that isn't what people think. That's what the ignorant think, right? The people who don't know any better. I was in Fells Point on Friday night, and have you ever seen the pirate ship? You know those guys that run the pirate ship?
I live down here, yeah, man. I've been on the pier egging those folks on to try to shoot at me, yes, because they kind of like it,
On Friday night, that pirate ship was full 4 times. It went on 4 cruises, plundering, or whatever they do. 4 times that thing was full of people running out through the harbor. If this was as bad as everyone wants to make it appear on social media, there's no way people and their kids and any of them get on a boat in, the most disgusting water, surrounded by crime. You know
what, dude? Let me say this. I got friends in from Jacksonville, right? Like my buddy Rick Ballou. He's been in all week with the Jaguars, right? They've been practicing, and I thought they'd be staying like up in Owings Mills, snugged away or whatever. No. They're staying down at the harbor, man. And every night he was out shooting a video on Facebook. You're gonna love this. This is where sports intersects, Bill. Does Leon Searcy mean anything to you?
Sure.
So Leon Searcy sitting at the Inner Harbor, Harbor East.
He was going to be the greatest right tackle we ever had.
Well, he told the story. Yeah, I mean, he and Ballou were like over drinks, sitting at the lock bar, literally shooting a video and talking about Baltimore and how beautiful it is. And they were showing the boats going by and all that. And meanwhile, like the comments underneath are rats, infestation. He lives in Jacksonville. You can only imagine how red the hats are there. It's a fascinating thing that he's sitting here. And meanwhile, and Bill, I want to tell you this. I've driven, first off, I was in New York City last week. I was in Saratoga at the racetrack. My wife and I have been around a little bit the last couple of weeks trying to enjoy our summer while she works during the week and trying to get it out to Ocean City on a weekend here and again. But no big trips this year. We got Miami and Kansas City and football trips coming down the pike. So I'm excited about all that. But I drove to see Hootie and the Blowfish in Camden, New Jersey last week. And I got there kind of late, right? So I was a late start. I'm friends with the band. I threw a note to Mark. I said, I'm on the road. He said, I'm leaving you a ticket. I pulled up at 8:45 for a show where the Bare Naked Ladies went on 7. So it was pitch black. I didn't even have to pay to park because I got there so late that they had stopped parking cars. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I pulled through Camden, New Jersey, I drove 3 miles or whatever it is from 295 on the east side of Camden to basically the bridge where Camden is, and I'm telling you, dude, I didn't see a light, I didn't see a rat, I didn't see a human. It looked like a place they bury bodies. You know what I mean? Like, it was completely there was nothing there but darkness. And at the end of the darkness were like these warehouse parking lots where they're parking cars for $20 for a Hootie and the Blowfish concert, and you can see the lights of Philadelphia off on the side. And I'm thinking, like, they're going to compare Baltimore to that? You know what I mean? Like, I walk through here. We're not even close to that, man. Like, so to be perceived as this dark, horrible. Yes, we have dark, horrible, desperate places that we're trying to clean up, fix up, like New York did when I drove through there, like Newark, New Jersey did when I drove through there, like Philadelphia did, like Camden did, like every other, like Detroit did, like every city I have ever been. Like Nashville has, like Jacksonville has. I mean, I've been to slums everywhere. It's part of American life. But we're trying to pick those people up like we've been trying to do for about 200 and going on 50 years now, right?
Part of the concept needs to be, and this is the be more positive concept, like when you compare Baltimore to Newark or Newark to Jacksonville, or we had a conversation months ago about Atlanta.
Or how about San Diego, or these places that are perceived? Austin, Texas. Everybody loves Austin, Texas. Or or how about Las Vegas, right? Like, which was hot, and I lost a bunch of money that, like trying to buy a second home, and taxes and water, which is going to be the next thing, which how are we going to get water to these people, and hail falling from the sky, and a storm that stood over Baltimore on Tuesday for 2 hours and didn't move. Just weird stuff happening, and you're fixing roofs out there. But all of these communities that we talk about in these cities, they're either going up or they're going down. It's kind of like a college football top 25, right? It's who's hot and who's not.
But in every one of those cities, there are people who believe in their city. So I guess the push that I'm trying to conceptualize here is, if you go into a store and you're trying to decide between I don't even know, different kinds of shampoo, right? Like, one shampoo bottle doesn't say, well, we have more rats than everybody else. And the other bottle doesn't say, yeah, well, we have more blighted buildings than anybody else. Like, no one talks about comparing the negatives. It's about comparing the positives, because when you go somewhere or you buy into a concept, you're buying in because there's a positive there that you believe you want to experience, and that you have some energy around making that positive even better.
Well, if you come to Baltimore, like, you're coming to pet a dolphin, you're coming to get a crab cake, you're coming to walk the promenade, you're coming to study history, you're coming to see Fort McHenry, you're coming to see the Yankees play, you're coming to, whatever your reason would be, right? Get a crab cake.
Yeah, I don't know how it's helpful to say, well, I know everybody's, talking down on Baltimore right now, but, we don't have as many rats as Newark. It's like, no. We have more, medical, highly educated people in the city limits than, can I say any other city? I don't know. I mean, somebody needs to help me get the data. But I think there's an awful lot of doctors in Baltimore, and I think if you get cancer or you get some weird disease that you don't know, guess where they're telling you to go to figure it out? They're telling you to go to Baltimore.
Well, I mean, my wife's in the other room right now as a two-time survivor, so I'm keenly aware of all of that. Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing, Gordian Energy. Tell everybody what you do, because I talk about all your James Bond roof and solar and all that stuff, and we're just two dudes from Baltimore trying to fix Baltimore, quite frankly, right?
Yeah, fundamentally, we provide quality employment opportunities to people in our community. Like, when I boil it down and we talk internally, like, that's what we do. We happen to do it in the form of, like, roofing repairs and roof replacements and, help building new construction schools and things like that. And we do a lot of work in the city. And then we build solar farms and solar on rooftops and solar parking garages, and we do all that because we believe it makes sense. There's a giant fireball in the sky that we should figure out a way to use the electricity from it. But really, it's about all our people and the fact that we've been here for 100 years, and we just continue to grind in this community, putting people to work, doing an honest day's work.
Is that clean solar, by the way, or?
I don't really. That sounds like a loaded question. I'm not sure really what that means.
No, I was just clean. I was clean coaling. I was making a little. I have to drive to Pittsburgh. I've looked at it on my schedule. It is football season, right? So, do you have anything? Do you have any Lamar in you? I mean, look, these preseason games are terrible. I know this year after year. I circle and say, "Ooh, Jacksonville. Ooh, Green Bay. Ooh, I'm missing Hootie and the Blowfish for this."
Right.
So that's what I think about it. But all that being said, there is a part of the sports part of this where people do come back to Baltimore and purple and orange,
right.
And orange sneakers that I have purchased recently, and putting on a hat that says Baltimore, that announces Baltimore before you come. And I'm hoping that some of this rat and some of the infestation and some of that will lead to good old-fashioned Balmer pride, that comes along when we go play Miami in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, look, if you can't take pride from an Ed Reed, or a Ray Lewis and a Jonathan Ogden, that's kind of a trifecta, and that's pretty amazing. And we just have to, hold the team accountable to go find us some more of those, but realize that we got to live through a pretty special period. And I think that's more where my focus is.
And look at that. That brought us together, right? Literally,
sure.
The Ravens coming to town is the reason I'm here broadcasting. It's the reason you and I are talking. And part of the reason for that is draft a Leland McElroy instead of a Ray Lewis, and draft some, bust out instead of Ed Reed. And all of a sudden, the two parades become a couple of 5 and 11s, and we're the Jacksonville Jaguars. Putting tarp over our upper deck and playing one of our home games in Mexico City every year. Right?
It's another reason why Baltimore ends up being the target of the president's comments. You can't see it, but we talk about The Wire and how bad that was for our city, and you talk about all these other things. They all add to people's perspective of us and our reputation, and quite frankly, maybe not always in a good way. A lot of people know where Baltimore is, and they know, that we play really good football, and they play defense, that we have a reputation, and we built a reputation there, and it fits well with, I think, the personality of our town, and, we're going to defend the place.
Yes,
let's do it,
get a shovel, get a sword, let's go, right. Baltimore. We are Baltimore positive. Bill Cole here, Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for inspiring me. I'm back on the horse here this month, getting it going and getting ready for football, and we telling folks about how you fix roofs. Good on you this week. Therapy works.
Always appreciate it. Let's do some work, man. I love you. Take care.
There he goes. Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. Bill Cole, my dear friend. Find me at nasty@WNST.net. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat. I'm back in the cockpit doing some Baltimore positive. We've got Paul Taberzi on this week. I've aired Matt Gallagher as well as Johnny O, which didn't air last month in the Hall of Fame stuff. We're getting through the week, but it is Hall of Fame month. Past, and this week will be Baltimore Positive Weekend here at WNST.net. So if you've missed any of the stuff in our archives and are driving around town this week, it's more Baltimore Positive than preseason football is at this point. We're out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault and streaming live 24 hours a day anywhere you are. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore Positive and Baltimore sports.